Dude, what an exciting weekend of racing at High Point. I'm still buzzing. I mean, this is Monday, 2 days after the actual race at High Point, Pennsylvania, or Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, I should be exact. Man, I'm still just almost have goosebumps from that day.
It was great in all the classes and in all the motos. It was just awesome racing, nonstop action.
Yeah. There's so many storylines from this weekend. I think of Pro Circuit's 300th victory with Ty Masterpool. I mean, who didn't have a tear in their eye after that? I mean, that was just incredible. Then we had Mark Phineas lead laps on a Club MX Yamaha. Fortunately, he went out with a DNF with a broken radiator, so that was a big bummer to see. But cool to see him, a rookie up front, leading that class. Then we had historic and just heroic rides from Hayden Deegan from mid-pack. I didn't think he was going to get the win in either moto, but man, towards the end, it was just like blood in the water. So,
and then Masterpool got his first win ever.
Yeah. So,
and overall at that too.
Right. So it's just so many storylines that happened in one single day of racing. High Point really delivered on Saturday.
Yeah, and we didn't even touch on the 450s right there, but we'll get into it as well. That's just
crazy.
The 250 class.
Yeah, it's crazy. So,
dude, the Deeks had awesome lines.
Dude,
he seemed to know where to go if a rider was in his preferred line or what line to maybe cut out early in. The more I watch that kid ride, the more impressed I'm getting each time.
And it seems like he's just so locked in. And the reason why I say that is because he still has that hang it out, loose style, kind of like what we see with Ricky Carmichael in the days.
Yeah.
But he is really disciplined on the bike. If you look at photos of him, his chin is pretty much always on top of or even in front of the bar pad on his handlebars. And you always see him with his elbows up. Some ruts he's just going through with his feet on the pegs, doesn't even care to take a foot off or sit down. And I'm just like, man, this kid's technique is just on another level. And I think that might come from riding with Eli Tomac out in Cortez, Colorado, riding with Ken Roxon at the Moto Sandbox, jumping around and being around these high-profile 450 riders, I think is really starting to rub off on Hayden and is paying off in huge dividends.
It really is, man. And it goes to show that his training off the bike is equally involved as well, because he's racing this hard from the gate drop to the checkered flag.
In my opinion, it's really his title to lose from here on out. He's got a solid points gap over, I think it's Chance Hymas in second, because Tom Viel did not have a good round in Mount Morris. So he's got a good points gap. We are going into Southwick, which wasn't his best track last year, but judging upon the improvement that we've seen from 2023 to 2024, I think we'll see a big improvement in Danger Boy's performance at Southwick in 2 weeks' time, because we do have a week off. So a little bit of a bummer that we're not getting some racing this weekend, just because I'm really thirsting, or just want the next race to come already, just because we had such a stellar weekend last weekend that it's a little bit of a bummer we're getting a weekend off, but these guys do deserve a much-earned break.
They definitely do, man.
Touch on Chance Hymas a little bit. Another strong showing from him. Granted, he didn't get the moto win or an overall. Did lead some laps there and was running up front for a lot of the moto. It seemed like 8 different riders led in the 250 class at one point or another. But Chance, I think it just came down to maybe some line choice and not wanting to be creative with his line choice, because we saw in one particular area of the track, Chance almost gets stuck about 2 or 3 different laps in a row. And, he was just getting killed by, I think it was Deegan that was behind him, and was just railing around, going maybe 4 or 5 ruts to his right, and was just railing around the outside where Chance is almost coming to a complete stop because of how thick and soupy it kind of was. Eventually, that line that Chance was taking ended up working in. It ended up being a pretty smooth line, but for the time being, he was just getting killed in that one section alone.
Yeah, and with how, it's not super hilly, but a lot of it is going uphill. We all know the star bikes and PCs tend to be the favorited in terms of power. I'm curious how that Honda compares to like the star bikes.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking insides like that, and if you're down on power as well, you really got to be carrying a ton of momentum, or else you're just not going to make up for it, especially if your competition is Deegan on the well-proven Star Yamaha bike. We know that bike is fast.
Yeah.
We know from experience just riding a stock Yamaha 250F that the thing feels like a mini 450.
Yeah.
And the Honda does not. Now I haven't ridden a 25 or a 24. It's been 2 years since I've really gotten to get on a Honda 250F. But they're good bikes, but they don't have near the horsepower or torque as the competition that's out there.
Yeah.
For it. And I think that track may have lent that to bike as well.
Who else was really shining? Let's touch on Tom Vial. Maybe not shining so much at High Point.
I expected much better.
Same here. It seemed like he was maybe just a tick off all day. I wonder if bike setup had something to do with it, maybe still adapting to the bike, but it seems as if Tom Vial just doesn't have that raw, top end, consistent speed with the other front runners.
Yeah, dude, good point. And to look at things from a rider's mental aspect, I've been seeing like on Chase Sexton's vlog that he rides with Tom quite a bit. So I wonder what suspension Tom has on his bike, and if it's not the same as Chase's. Like mentally as a rider, if my teammate is Chase Sexton and he's almost winning the Premier Class, or he did it at Hangtown, and I don't have the same componentry as him, and I'm struggling, like that's gonna be somewhat of a mental challenge as a rider. Thinking, well, fuck, man, like my teammate and kind of mentor in a sense is not on the same stuff I'm on, but yet the same results are expected. Not in the same class, but I would think that could be almost a little self-defeating. Maybe he's had a chance to ride it. It's just purely a guess on my end. But since you alluded to bike setup, that's kind of first thing that comes to my mind is, does he get the same treatment? It looked like Julian Boehmer was on the WP Air Forks, obviously modified, not the production version, but a version of their Air Fork. And is that rider preference, meaning he chose that, or is that more of here's what you're going to get type thing? I would hope it's rider preference.
Yeah, I would hope so too.
Yeah.
Especially with a team and a company as big and as large as KTM. You know, they got a lot of resources, a lot of money goes into that KTM program, especially the KTM team. Because as you trickle down the list, you know, it's KTM, Husky, Gas. And as you go down the line, the less resources and AKA or money, I should say. It really just is money at the end of the day is getting put towards those teams. Now, what is that money used for? Well, I mean, obviously R&D, parts, services. I mean, you pretty much name it. And, you know, again, I would hope it's rider preference. And, you know, I think kind of the thing that we're both really wanting to touch on is Tom, has he had a chance to ride that Technical Touch KYB conversion kit? And B, did he like it? Or maybe is he wanting to ride it?
Yeah.
Because we do see other riders under the PMG or Pierre Mobility Group running that setup a la Justin Barsha aboard his Gas MC 450F, which is pretty recent because he started out the season on WP stuff. We roll into round 3 at Thunder Valley. He sported him on the KYB setup.
He did quite well too at Thunder Valley.
Did quite well, but now it seems as if maybe his knee injuries, which we've talked about in another JBI race recap, are starting to hinder him. I saw a picture with him, both knees wrapped up in bandages.
I can see why. There's a lot of ruts last weekend.
Brutal.
If I had sore knees and I had to go race there, I'd just be thinking, fuck.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time before I dab my leg in a corner to say that's moto. We try not to dab our feet, but it's your instinct to put your foot down when you're about to wash the front. And I'm sure every rider did that a few times throughout the course of the day. So that had to have been hard on him. At least in 2 weeks from now, he's going to be out in the sand. So, I mean, very hard on the body impact-wise of just rollers, but at least it's not tight ruts and possibly getting your foot kind of stuck and bent. But let's kind of transition to the 450s now. The Lawrence Bros put on a master class that first moto. And I love what James pointed out, how they're taking different lines the whole like first half of that first moto. It's just so cool to see them just kind of weaving in and out of that track, forming different lines, pacing each other. And then to see third place is 30 seconds back. It's just like, what?
It's crazy. I wonder if they were going all out. And this is kind of what James was alluding to on the broadcast was Hunter was getting a tow from Jet around the entire track. So I wonder if Jet was going all out and he was really pushed towards that limit and Hunter was just really on the gas that moto, or if it was just like another day at the dog pound, those two just hammering out motos, playing with lines and maybe riding at like a 90%, 95% level, leaving some in the tank for Moto 2. We did see Hunter Lawrence drop off a little bit in Moto 2. I think he's about 15, 16 seconds back. Talking about Jet and how he uses his energy. It's almost like a weapon. You mentioned that he scrubbed the bike really hard right before the finish line. I mean, that was nasty.
Yeah, it was right after Sexton had taken this inside rut. Jet had gone wide, and Sexton got him. And the way Jet scrubbed that was so aggressive. It was just more like, fuck no, I'm getting you back. Versus his normal scrub that had been seen. So no, you're right. It was this burst of energy and aggression out of him.
He's such a smart and calculated rider. He really just picks his spots like what you mentioned, the scrub right before the finish line, and there's other parts of the track where he puts in that burst of energy to make a pass or maybe even get a couple bike links on a rider. And then he knows in those sections where, if there's a section on the track where there's maybe a booby trap or even like a squirrel catcher, he will lay off a little bit, and you see him be really patient through those long, deep, gnarly ruts. Not necessarily hard on the gas just because he's not using the brakes a whole lot. He's coming into those ruts with a lot of momentum, a lot of speed, and then just gently getting on the gas. James pointed out on the broadcast that nobody talk for a second. Let's just listen to the bikes. And as they're going through dude, it was so rad to see because
they need more of that.
They were so spot on. James was like, you could hardly hear the bike as he's entering these ruts, and they're exiting a corner with so much momentum that they just need to use a little bit of throttle input to carry them all the way through these long, deep, gnarly ruts and all the way out. So it's just cool to see that the Lawrences are using such a unique style of riding.
Yeah, very different from what I grew up with, like Gary Semek's days of watching his tapes about accelerating as hard as you can to the apex of the corner, going off the brakes, off the gas, on the brakes, turning, and then getting harder on the gas. Granted, 2 strokes were the main bike to ride at the time, so obviously the sport has evolved. But yeah, it is really cool to see the change in technique over the years and generations of riders that have gone with it. Touching on technique, man, I was did you see Hunter Lawrence almost go down second moto in this rut that almost like swallowed his bike? And then Justin Cooper went through the same rut, it just sucked his bike out from
that was so crazy.
I think it like caught and then looped out, and he almost did a 180 and spun back.
Yeah, this is the corner that we're talking about is the far inside rut. It's a 180 right-hander after the start straight.
Yeah.
You go up the start straight, make a left, come down the start straight, and then it's that tight 180 right. And that rut must have had a soft spot or something in it because they were hammering the gas out, and it was just pulling them like all the way out. So yeah, I wonder what was in that. If maybe it was a rock they were trying to avoid, or again, just maybe a soft, mushy spot, because the track got a lot of rain on Friday night before the actual race on Saturday. Yeah. So I just wonder what was in that rut to cause them. Obviously, there were some hooks and some ruts too, but it seemed like that was just such a gnarly and bizarre rut that it maybe more played into that than just a simple hook in the rut.
Yes, I was very happy to see Jason Anderson second moto get a great start. Yeah, just he's right there. So I'm really pumped to see somebody of Jason still just putting it in each week and trying to get better and getting better. His bike still looked quite good. Again, I think a lot of that is his riding style. We talked about that last weekend. Like, that's very impressive on Kawasaki's part to have developed such a good performing outdoor bike so quickly for it being a new model.
Yeah.
So yeah, his bike looked great. Second, I saw first moto was a little bit more tough for him. Not as good of a start.
Yeah.
But that was kind of true for a lot of people, except Phil Nicoletti. That dude is just...
scoop tire.
Yeah, man. Killing the whole starts. And hats off to Twisted Development, our neighbor just across the way. They do a lot of their motors and all the muck-off team as well. So it was a good weekend for them, getting great starts and showing the quality of work that they do over at Twisted, helping out the teams on the top level.
Yeah, 250 and 450 riders were up front. Scoop tire, non-scoop tire, you name it. I mean, those guys were just on the gas. So yeah, cool to see. One thing I want to touch on with Anderson, you see him kind of take a cheeky move at Jet, just kind of ever so slightly going outside, and then Sexton got the BOGO. Like it was a 2-for-1 special pretty much. And then Jet got him back, and they were kind of dicing a little bit, but I thought that was a little bit of a cheeky move. Like, nothing dirty, nothing crazy, but just kind of ever so slightly slowing up and kind of making it right when the turn goes left.
What could have Chase done different second moto to win that moto?
Oh, man.
It seemed like a lot, maybe it wasn't in his favor, but he seemed to have as good of a chance as Jet. It's just that second moto rolled out in Jet's favor in a couple lines, couple lappers. Yeah,
it kind of seemed like, well, Jet said something on the podium which kind of struck me in a way. He said that was Chase's moto to win. Maybe not verbatim, but the similar point is what I'm getting at. And I was kind of surprised by that, just because I was like, man, for a guy who's so calculated and has such good race management and race craft, I'm surprised to hear him say that on the podium. Granted, he's dealing with a bit of a shoulder injury from that Hangtown crash at round 2 of the Pro Motocross season. Surprising. So to go back to and answer your question, I thought Chase was doing all the right things, just caught the wrong berm. And I don't think it was necessarily like, I think Chase gets a lot of hate comments, and I feel really bad because the dude just puts his heart out on the track every single time.
He does.
Never quits. And to be honest, I don't really get the hate for Chase Sexton. Dude, he's a young, good-looking kid. He is well-spoken. Say what you want about him, but the kid can ride his ass off. He's got great
Yeah.
technique. And
He puts in the effort. I mean, I know all those racers are, but especially Chase
yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
But you're right. They replayed that crash sequence and the berm pushed away, or the berm kind of rut that he was getting into. Granted, he was probably hitting it pretty fucking hard.
yeah,
But you hate to see that. He has to have some confidence knowing that he is the only guy that has consistently been able to catch and pass Jet. Maybe it doesn't stick. Or it hasn't stuck. Jet gets him back.
yeah,
The exception of Hangtown.
Yeah.
But that's got to give him some confidence knowing that I can track him down and I can pass him. Now I just need to figure out how to make that pass stick
yeah.
and hold.
Yeah, I think the big domino to fall and to get the monkey off Chase's back is to beat Jet. It's a head-to-head battle. That was really the moto that I think that we were going to see it. We were going to finally see Chase catch Jet, pass him, and beat him straight up. No mud, no weird circumstances. This was going to be the moto, and it just fell short a little bit with that berm breaking away. Could you say maybe he was overriding the track? I don't know if I really subscribed to that one just because the track was so gnarly.
It was.
And it just seemed a bit unpredictable because it was really sticky at high point during the beginning and middle of the day, but it did start to get pretty hard pack and dusty towards the end.
There's a good amount of feet off the pegs in some rut sections. And when you see that out of pros, that just tells you how gnarly that rut section is if their feet are coming off.
Yeah, so it was a bummer to see Chase go down because I think there was just a few minutes left in the moto, plus 2 laps, of course. We're kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty, and I thought we were going to see more of a Chase Sexton, Jet Lawrence battle, and not just Jet kind of cruising on to the win again. But
yeah, because that's what I want to see, man, is Chase pass them, and then I want to see the rest of the moto where they go back and forth, because I don't know if I foresee Chase passing Jet and like pulling away. I think it's passing them, maybe getting a bike length or 2, and then just having to ride perfect, because I would assume Jet's going to crank it up a notch to try to get him back.
Yeah.
So it's, man, I wonder what his strategy is. If it's just whatever happens, or if he has a certain strategy of maybe catch Jet later on in the race, pass him later in the race, or, I mean, granted, racing's so dynamic. You can certainly have a strategy going into it, but you have to be able to quickly adapt as events unfold. People going down in front of you, lap riders, you going down yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a fun thing to think about. How do you beat Jet? And that's got to be what is on everybody else's mind.
The viewers would hang us out to dry
Yes.
if we didn't touch on Thai Masterpool a little bit more. So to end out the show, let's just have a Thai Masterpool segment before we close out. Man, like what a win and what a story.
Yeah.
Like with everything that's gone on in that family, I don't know the family personally. I've never had an interaction with them, but they seem like a very kind, loving family that just have deep roots in the sport. But I believe
Hardcore
you
moto.
have maybe a little bit of insight and history with the Masterpools.
Long time ago, man. When I grew up in Reno, Nevada, they had a training facility much north of Reno, Nevada by like a couple hours. I can't remember exactly where. And this was still when Jesse was around. I was probably 18 at the time. So this was about 18 years ago. And that's the first time I got to meet Jerry Masterpool. Really nice, kind of cowboy type dude. He was training kids at the time. And that's what he was known for. If you want to get faster, you go to the Masterpool training facility. Jesse was killing it at the time. And it was just very unfortunate what happened to Jesse and that family. But it's been really cool to see how that family has rebounded. They left Nevada, got a better spot in Texas, it looks like. I don't want to say started over, but got the family going again with some new kids. And you just love to see that good things happening to them now from the challenges that they've had. So how rewarding, because it's obvious they put in the effort and the time. We've seen the Masterpool maybe jump around from a few teams trying to find the best fit for them. And I'm glad to see that they're on a team now that seems to really provide them with the resources they need, the bike that they need, and really allowed to see Ty ride at the ability he can.
Yeah.
Does he have it for Deegan? Maybe. Maybe he just needs that confidence to get a win, to feel like, okay, I belong up there. Will it be next weekend? Probably not, but maybe in a year from now, he could be the next top guy by just continuing to get more podium finishes and just more time on the bike and just a good experience racing. Meaning showing up, knowing your bike is good, no parts you're missing. Not saying this has happened on previous teams he's been on, but Pro Circuit is just a very well-run team. So as a rider, that must be very reassuring knowing you're rolling up and you're on one of the best bikes. You got some of the best mechanics, some of the best tuners all in your corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very well said, JB. I think Masterpool, although it's not an absolute shoo-in that he has a ride at Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki, I think he's on the fast track to a full-time ride just because he is filling in for the injured riders. Fortunately, the injury list just keeps going on and on with the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki team with McAdoo out. We got Faulkner out. We got, I know I'm so missing one, Seth Hammaker, I believe, is out as well. So, I mean, unfortunately, the list goes on and on. I'm convinced that there's a black cat roaming around at Pro Circuit at night. So if anyone happens to see it, make sure to get it the hell out of Dodge. Yeah.
We didn't touch on Kitchen either. We'll touch on him after this.
Yeah, let's touch on him after the Masterpool segment. But again, huge congrats to Ty Masterpool, man.
Congratulations, Ben, and the whole Masterpool family. Like, you guys, well deserved of your efforts and just continued efforts and not giving up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, dude, it almost brings a tear to my eye now. Like, I was like almost tearing up watching the broadcast, doing the pod, almost tearing up. Man, I can't be tearing up on the pod, man. Yeah. Too much.
You could see how excited he was when he crossed that finish line.
It's crazy.
And man, Hayden was right there. Had that race been another 20 feet.
Right there, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, Deegan, again, hats off to like all those guys because they put on a show. I'm going to venture out and say best 250 race of the year. I know we're pretty early on and we're only 4 rounds deep into the pro motocross season, but I'm going to hands down say that was the best race of the year, 250 class, Supercross, motocross, SMX, you name it.
Dude, that and Deegan going from last to first moto. Like, we almost forgot to touch on that.
Yeah.
It's happened twice now, meaning Sexton did it at Hangtown.
Yeah.
And we got Deegan doing it here.
It's just crazy.
You're clearly better than your competitors if you're doing that.
It's so insane to the level that some of these athletes can ride at. It's just like mind-boggling. And I think to myself, like I'm an intermediate skill level rider, and like I'll go through a corner here and there, and I'm not saying I'm setting the world on fire, but I'm like, how could anyone go much faster than that?
Right.
It's just like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, and then for 15 or 16 laps straight. It's one thing to go, dude, watch this corner and rip a corner like nobody's ever seen. But to do that over and over and over and not crash or lose their front ends just speaks volumes to their ability on a bike.
Yeah, it's so insane. Let's touch on Levi Kitchen. Kind of just seemed like an off day. He's sliding back in the points now, or he's gonna need some help from his competitors to win this championship. It kind of looks like. Saw an Instagram post from him today. Bad starts and just laying on the ground too much was kind of the cause or the root cause of maybe a poor performance at High Point. But where do you think his season goes from here?
I see him rebounding from this for sure and becoming more of a podium top 5 guy. Often just to make a tough weekend for him. He seems to have that ability to, we saw that in Supercross, bounce back. So I think he knows he's in it for the long run. And we're only 4 rounds in to the race so far, and we still got another, 7?
7 to go.
To go.
Yeah.
So that's another 14 motos. So a lot can happen. I hope he just stays consistent and off the ground, and he just keeps the other guys honest. Will he keep Hayden honest? Who knows? I think he seems to be the guy to beat, but everybody else is gonna have to watch the number because you can't count him out.
Yeah.
But that whole class the depth has gotten so deep in that class. I'm glad to see it. For a while, that seemed like the class where we lost a lot of riders going to 450s. So it's cool to see that depth coming back to it, the 250 class now. Yeah,
it's so good to see because I think the sport's in a good spot because it's no secret in the 450 class, we're going to lose some marquee riders with, I think a lot of contracts are going to be up at the end of 2025 and it's looking a little scary, but thank God that we have guys like Chance Hymas, who's throwing his name in the hat, Levi Kitchen, we got Hayden Deegan in the wings going to the 450 class. I mean, Tom Vial, the list goes on and on and on. And some of those guys are forced to move up. I mean, we'd even mention RJ Hampshire.
No, I know. Man, I wish he was racing, dude.
Yeah, and it's like, no matter what happens between Vial and Hampshire, they're guaranteed to be moving up to the 450 class in 2026 because they won the 250 title in Supercross this year. If Deegan wins the 250 Supercross title next year after, I mean, he's on the fast track to winning the Pro Motocross title this year in 2024. I'm sure as shit betting that he's on a 450 in 2026. So I think the sport is looking in a good spot for the next couple of years.
How do you think Deegan's going to be on that 450?
I worry a little bit with his riding style and By that, I mean how much he revs the bike.
Yeah.
But he kind of reminds me of maybe a bit of Tomac in a way, where he just gets away with it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so maybe that translates. But again, like, I don't want to compare the two that much because Tomac's a bigger guy. Like, he's got that mountain muscle, farm ranch strength, where not saying Deegan isn't strong. Obviously, the kid is extremely fit, extremely fast, extremely strong, but maybe a different type of strength.
Yeah.
He's not as big as Tomac. So I don't know if he's going to be able to manhandle that 450 and rev the piss out of the thing the entire time. So I wonder how his riding style is going to adapt. I mean, there is no lack of skill level or talent, technique in that kid. I think he's got all the tools, and the people around him, the team, the family, are all going to propel him towards a 450 title contender in the near future.
That's going to be fun to watch. Yeah, because I wonder if the 250 just isn't fast enough for him. I mean, regardless of the brand, it's just he wants to go faster, and that's as fast as the bike will go.
Yeah.
So give him another 200 cc's, a lot more horsepower and torque, and maybe he'll be able to further smooth out his riding style because the bike isn't limiting him on how fast he wants to go. But it's going to be fun to watch that transition. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but it's something to think about because, I mean, man, we need people to fill in that class as we start to see guys understandably and rightfully retire and step away. It's just crazy to think. To me, these were the young guys. I grew up with Dungy, Villapoto. So after seeing them retire, I was like, oh man, we got the young guys coming in, and now they're getting ready to step out and retire. And I'm just like, geez, I'm getting older, which happy to do so. But yeah, well, this has been awesome, man.
Yeah, what a good pod. That was good. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching per usual. This is now also available on Spotify.
Yes,
yeah,
it is. Thank you
forgot
for
to
doing
mention that. I mean, there's so much to mention in one episode. It's crazy. But yeah, now also available on Spotify. So just type in Ride JBI.
Yep.
Simple as that. We only have one episode up as of now, but we're going to backfill some of the episodes of Shop Talk and Race Recap that we already have uploaded on YouTube onto our Spotify account. And obviously the episode that you're watching now will be also live on Spotify as well as YouTube. Video formats on both. Before we go, who's your 250, 450 podium, Southwick?
Tom Vial for next weekend because I think Southwick was his first win in the 250 class last year.
That's correct.
So I'm going to go with that.
Vial did win. Deegan didn't have the best day, and I think maybe some of that has to do with his riding style. He's burying the bike a whole lot, revving it a little bit, maybe a little too much. So I think this year he'll have a better showing. But
yeah,
a Vial again for your top spot, and then
Vial, and then Deegan.
Yeah.
Like, not going to count him out. Like, I have to. And then I'm going to go with Masterpool.
Nice. Ooh, yeah, really good pull.
Yeah. Which 450s, Jet, Dylan Ferrandis, Chase.
Jet.
I just don't know where to put Hunter. Hunter's going to be right there, but Dylan's fast in the sand. He's a great Euro rider, and he just needs to start. And I think he's still building this program.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm gonna go with drum roll, please. I'm gonna go Deegan for first. I love what I'm seeing out of him. He just the dude won't be denied. Just like simply put, granted he didn't get the overall streak is over, but he was right there. So yeah, I'm gonna go Deegan top spot, throw some shit at the wall and see if it sticks, right?
Yeah.
I'll go Tom Vial second, and I will go Chance Hymas third.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. 450 class, I'm going to go Hunter Lawrence gets his first 450 overall. I'm going to go Jet Lawrence second.
I like it.
And I will go Chase Sexton third. Well, we'll end on a good one. Thank you guys for watching once again, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.